All right, so we're going to start off chapter 2 by discussing inductive and deductive reasoning. It's important to understand the difference between these two because they have different rules, they have different uses, and a difference on how our degree of certainty in the conclusions that these kinds of reasonings can make. Right off the bat, they both use evidence. So inductive reasoning, it involves reasoning from specific cases to a general principle. When we use inductive reasoning to generalize from specific bits of evidence to a general conclusion. For example, scientists, they generalize many cases of research results to justify that some theory or hypothesis is true. So if you're a scientist and you're running experiments, you run an experiment and then that is going to provide evidence for your theory, your hypothesis. That is inductive reasoning. Using inductive reasoning, Broca generalized from an individual case of brain damage, Tan was his name, that was the name they used for him, Tan, to the conclusion that damage in a specific area in the left frontal lobe of the brain would impair speech production. So right here is Broca's area. So they're saying if there's damage here, Tan had damage here, so damage there could lead to issues in speech production. Generalizing from the cases of people with speech production problems who also have damage to Broca's area leads to the inductive conclusion that damage to Broca's area is associated with impaired speech production. So those bits of evidence justify the inductive conclusion for the theory. Deductive reasoning often proceeds in the other direction, from a general principle to specifics. So here in figure 2.2, they're looking at these three different people. The speech is impaired. Conclusion, damage to Broca's area impairs speech production. Deductive is kind of the other way. So the theory is if you have damage to Broca's area, then speech production will be impaired. Bill's brain has damage in Broca's area, so the conclusion then is going to be that Bill's speech production will be impaired. It's a specific prediction from a general principle, this theory. There's an interesting difference here. With deductive, you can reach a conclusion that you are certain about, that Bill has damage in Broca's area, and now he has speech production issues. You can be 100% certain on those things. The same is not necessarily true for inductive reasoning, which we will see later on. All right, in the next slide, we will get into the conditional if-then arguments.